writing out the slips for land permission to trap on them. At least that's what I do, so I know which traps to use, where to use them, where I'm not permitted to go, etc. So here's a bunch of traps that I have. I experimented with a lot of different traps, and just some positives and negatives for each and every trap, almost. So where do I even start? These are colony traps, but I'll discuss that later for nuisance trapping. If you're catching skunks and possums, sometimes these work okay, sometimes they don't. These are Harvard. Has anybody used these before?
A little chippy trap. Back in the 80s. A little bit.
Yeah, so I don't like them. They're double doors, and what happens with these is when you try to set them, they're a pain in the butt. And here's the thing, these actually will bend very easily, and you have to readjust them, and then sometimes when you do it, then they push each other out. And once you actually get it good, wind, rain, a little bump.
Yeah. That's exactly.
And sometimes, like you see that, it doesn't go down. You have to keep on oiling it or bending them. Anyway, this one's for sale.
Make
an offer if you want to try to fix it or try to figure it out. Go by me. I don't have any patience for it, so make an offer, take it. All right.
Give me $5, I'll take it.
There you go. Of course.
Give me $5.
No. Usually when I go to like garage sales or even the best places to get traps is recycling places. You give them your number, say, hey, if you're getting traps, trap parts, I don't care if they're broken, whatever, get them. You can use the parts from that trap and transfer them to a different trap and modify your traps. I mean, it's the cheapest way to go. So another trap, you guys all saw this one. You know what these are. If you do use these traps, I mean, don't. But these are the kind of traps that you're gonna have clients use all the time, and they're gonna call you like, hey, I caught a skunk, I caught this or caught that, and this is what you'll be working on when you're going around to people's houses collecting their animals that they caught. Because legally, they can't, shoot in town. They can, obviously take them out and have somebody else shoot them if they wanted to, but legally they can't transfer them, or release them somewhere else. So when you come trap, they'll be trapping with this, and then what I do after I'm done transferring it, which I transfer in here, which I'll show that after all this, I usually clean out the pan and use the rods, and I clean out underneath the pan, and then I'll set it back to where they had it, set it, make sure it works, and let them, reset themselves, you know what I mean? Because legally you can't really set it, because you have to check it every 24 hours, so if it's your client's trap, you leave it alone. I'm just nice enough to clean it out for them, so that way it works for them, so it's easy for them to use. So that trap, in the middle of winter time, one time when I started out, I didn't have any of these traps. I was using these traps in the beginning, and I was trying to catch this boar for like over a week in someone's property. It was out in the middle of nowhere, but they also had a community, so the richer folks that have a nice, ranches everywhere, and they're in a little community out in the country. And the boar I've been trying to catch, it was like January, February. So about that time, they're not interested in any food or any baits. So I was trying to catch them. I saw his trail, saw him like looking around, but he wouldn't go in the trap. Then I started using fish oil baits, and that caught his attention. Because in the winter time, for one, baits lose the smell, and the sweets and stuff usually used in the summertime. But I used fish, like sardines, put it in there because it's stronger smelling, so you can smell it better. And then the boars are like, oh, I'm not looking for a mate right now. I smell fish. He went inside the trap and decided to bend this like a sardine can inward, and then now he's cage shy. I'll never catch him again. So always use a very strong trap when you're trapping raccoons, especially boars, especially during mating season. So that's another trap I don't use except for transferring things, and I might set that up if I'm out of these for like possums and skunks, but I will not use them for groundhogs or raccoons, period. these traps, I have no idea where I got this, and I like found it in my pile of traps, and I don't even remember where this came from. It looks similar to this one. This one's a tomahawk, collapsible. Did not know it was a collapsible. And so Doug's like, oh, by the way, that's collapsible. Apparently, you move this, and that pulls it up, and you take this off, because it also has a back door, which is rigged, and it claps so you can put it in your truck. I only use this on my property for like rabbits and the occasional pet, our dachshunds or something will get caught in here. And I'm trying to trap my rabbits, but I've trapped a couple of animals before to where they bent this up and they just slip right through it. That's why I put a piece of metal up here, just that way that wouldn't come up as far. And all the crappy traps I do use on my property because I'm not using it on a client's property. So I can have it used, but I have my good traps open to use for my clients. Also, this one's for sale. I don't like this one either. It's lightweight and all that, but if you can figure out how to modify it even better to make it work for you. I mean, it's a little bit flimsier, but it's stronger than that one, honestly.
And that's a tomahawk?
And I think this is a tomahawk because it has the same kind of door system there. A little different. But I was trying to experiment with this the other day, but look at this. You have to basically wire this shut completely, or they're going to lift that up. Think through there, especially if you get younger animals in the summertime. But I don't really trust it either. So,
Is this for sale too?
those are for sale too. Alright, so here's all my favorites.
Todd?
These are the only ones I'll be using for raccoons and groundhogs from now on. I won't use those ever. And I'll show you why. These are going to be a bit heavier. They can destroy this as much as they want. They're not going to do nothing to it, which I love. And of course they have different pans, if you notice. These are a lot thicker, and the pan is on the front where they step on instead of the back. And some pans are in the middle of the trap. Some of them are clear in the back, which is harder to put bait in, but since the bait falls through the pan, then they have to work at that and they'll set off that trap like that. So that's what I like about those too. So this one's like 3 inches from the back, completely butted in the trap, back, right in the middle of the trap, and 2 inches from the back. Now these are all, except that one, that's a Williams trap. The Williams trap is these things, live stuff. Oh, pressure stuff. So if you see how this is set up, it's resting right here. This one I typically only use. This one I only use at home. A lot of people like to use this for nuisance work or trapping, wherever. I mean, it's a really good, strong trap. The only problem with this is when an animal goes in there, sometimes they'll drag in, you have to basically tear apart all of the weeds around it, because once a weed gets stuck on there, then these go like this, and then they just crawl right out of here. So,
Do you think part of the problem could be with the treadle in the front?
what?
This being in the front, that by the time they hit that, they're not in far enough?
Oh no, they'll be in far enough, and I'll explain that once I get to.
That door hits them in the butt, they're going on in. You can run real short live traps.
Yeah, and I'll show one of those in a minute. And another thing I don't like about these, when I'm doing nuisance work, I'm usually doing posi setting. Posi setting means I'm setting the cage as close to the hole as I possibly can and covering the area so they have no choice but to go straight into the trap. And this door is so long that I can't butt it up against it as close as I can, and I have to use a lot of material just to cover it. And if they bump this or anything, it's going down. Okay, so that's the only reason why I only use that on my property, because I trap all year long on my property because I have farm animals. So, and then of course, I'll notice it tripped and it's caught on a stick that fell down from the tree. I'm like, okay, I'm over it. You know, I'm like, but I still use it. I mean, it's just there so that way I'm not wasting the traps, you know, that I have for nuisance work. And a couple of these I have, like these. So these are all three of these are the same kind of trap. They're pin traps. What that means is it's a gravity door, and you have to push down this pin. There's different ways to hook them. And this one has a flimsy thing on here. I'm not particularly, I love at all. I like the thicker ones because over time these start to bend. The smaller wired ones that are going through the tube, they tend to bend. You can work it, throw some WD-40 or something in there, get it working again, and you're a little bit pain in the butt. But the thicker wired ones that have no tube in there, they're very nice. This one has a nice thick. And you always, every time you do trap, you always set your traps and you set them off to make sure they're going to hold, especially these. Sometimes these will get weak and you can pull it and let it go. If you can pull it and it doesn't stop and it comes out, a raccoon's going to be able to push that door open. So all you do is just take something like your bar, bend it up a little bit, do it again, make sure it drops and it catches really well. I did modify all these traps. So since I do nuisance control, in the springtime you get a lot of young animals, unfortunately, and we do have to take care of those once we catch them. And sometimes they'll squeeze throughout, spacing about 1.5 to 2 inches. So what I did is I went to my boss's shop. He does the welding. So I had him put an extra bar right here on the top, welded that in there just to make sure nothing young can squeeze through there. Some of these, like, so this one I did the same thing. This one, you can see that they had bars. I don't like the ones with bars because things can squeeze out of that too. So I actually got a plate welded on there. And plus it's nice because it keeps it dark. Keeps it dark, you know. When they go in a hole, they want to go where it's dark and they go right in there. So I like covered doors. So these are pin drop traps. I like these.
What brand are those, Sam?
I don't know. I tried to do some research on them. I can't find anything on them. Yeah.
A lot of those were not one manufacturer, a lot of different people that were making them back in the 80s, late 80s and stuff like that, that a bunch of different people were making them.
Which you can tell, because you can tell the thickness of the
Yeah.
like I said, the one I don't like at all is the thin wire through this one, through the tube, because, you know, you can only pull it back and push it in so far and manipulate it. You can see how sometimes it bends and it catches, and that's the only thing I don't like about it, and that's why I put WD-40 or white grease in there. Also, every spring and every fall, if you notice the traps, they're not super rusty because they were rusty 2 days ago because I keep them outside, but I always paint my traps. Every spring I paint them, every fall I touch them up. Just to help with the rusting, because the rusting actually will affect the triggers and everything else. In the spring I also spray the joints with WD-40 or white grease, just to make sure they're going to be very loose and everything. I also don't want the shine on the cages. It keeps them dark, because at night they're not going to notice the cage there if they're a little bit more cage shy than other critters. And they'll go right in there and think it's just some random hole on the side of the trail instead of something shiny and weird and different. So that's why I do that. Any questions so far?
Too big.
Getting there. Huh? We're getting there. Good question.
Show us how you transfer.
That's next after the Comstocks.
Okay.
Don't get her messed up there.
I already started that.
Yeah, come on, Mike, let's go now.
You're good. You're good. So here we have two different Comstocks. That one's the bigger one, the small one. That's a newer one. That's an older one. this one's a pain in the butt to do, so I don't really like setting it. Sorry, Doug. This one's for sale as well.
Walk out of here with nothing.
How much is it for?
It's a great trap, but it needs modifications. It just needs, like, you compare it to this one.
30, I went back with 10.
You can see, if you want to come closer, you can, how this is a round rod, a shorter rod up there. When it catches it, it has a little, it doesn't have to go very far on the trigger to set the trap. This one, it's flat and wider,
That's an older style.
flat and wider and on the top. So it takes more effort for it to close it.
I think Doug just answered that. So that's an older trap,
Yep.
and then he modified them to make, because he knew there was an
Yeah,
issue.
and there still needs more modifications actually. So, and these ones are a little bit harder to set because of this thing right here, and I'm not gonna set it because I'm not gonna get angry right now.
So does he offer an upgrade to where this could be changed over, or would that be too much
No,
inconvenience?
you would have to grind it and weld stuff if you want to on there. I don't think he does he?
No. Your best bet is to learn how to use it and just use it as it is, and then when you get good enough, then you can buy more of the new ones, and then you sell those older ones to somebody who's just starting up into the.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
Did this used to be your trap?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I bought those two. I bought those two because I got them at a good price, and I knew Sam needed some, and I thought, okay, we're not going to put her into the top end model. We're going to start her off on the base model. Yeah, let her work with them a little bit.
After I'm done, y'all can set whatever traps you want and compare and contrast them if you would like to, so you can get the feel of them. But you see how easy this was, and I love this trap because I like both of them, but I have no patience. So, and it's easier, and I don't hurt myself on this one, except one. But you can choose to just do one door, or you can do both doors. And you can choose if you have a tight space, like underneath the deck. It's spring loaded, so anything that goes in there sets that. It's gonna push them right in there. So that's why I love this trap. It's versatile and everything else. And of course, every trap that I set, no matter what, I always stick it down, period. So that way they don't roll the trap, move the trap, or get suspicious because the trap is wobbly. So you're like, hey.
You notice, Mike, every trap she has for sale, she got off of Doug.
Half of these are garage sales. Anyway,
There's only one there she got from me. There's only one, and that one.
Just for sale?
yes. Oh, and I did modify this trap because one time it failed me. The springs, I always tested it out to make sure that, so these coils right here, I tested out every time to see if they would stick in case somebody pushed it and they fall off before triggering it. One time it failed me, so it's welded on there now. Yes,
So-
I used weld. I always cut them off and start over.
And this holds up in there.
Yeah,
The wires and stuff hold up. Wow.
yeah, if you get a raccoon in there, they're going to destroy it.
I mean, they bust out through the front door, but they don't mess that wire up?
They do mess the wire up.
Okay.
But you can re-live it or whatever. I use weld because I was at the shop and I was like, this weld is for me. You can use JB weld, you can use a rubber band, you can use clay.
There's different little putties that you can put on there too that'll hold that tight.
Yeah. I just did it the lazy way because I want to see how long this lasts. And if not, I can always cut it off, start over, and weld one on if I need to. But now it's sturdy and then I'm going to pop off without getting triggered. So I do like that.
What are you catching with that?
So I posi set with these.
Gotcha.
So groundhog holes underneath tight space decks,
Yep.
sheds, anything like that. Like I said, it's a double door. I always catch everything, no matter what's underneath the shed, because in the neighborhood, they're all sharing the same holes as the neighbor over here, and I'm not going to just catch the one critter that's underneath there. Anything that's interested in that area where they want to live, I just catch it so that way they're not cage shy, and I never, let it go, because it's going to be a problem somewhere else along the way and harder to catch later. So, transfer or bait?
Basically woodchucks.
You're the boss.
You can get raccoons
Get out the
too.
rhythm.
What do
There's a
transfer?
shorter one that's good for woodchucks.
So,
18 inches.
the somebody has Canada raccoon in there, or groundhog or whatever. It's the same way I do skunks, except a hair different. I'm glad I did that or I lost it. So this is the only thing I use for transferring. Lightweight, easy to carry. Lightweight, and I don't want to carry that thing around. So what I do first, I'll pick which one I need. Like if I'm using those traps, I'll use the thicker ones, the wider ones, because it fits the slots better. I mean, but you can do any one. And I'll, what do I do with it?
Dispatch tool.
Raccoons and groundhogs, I've noticed it has happened once, I think, that when I was trying to do transferring, they kicked out my trap and escaped. And of course I never had these, so I had to like hurry up and pull it up and put that trap underneath there. But I stake that down there because the raccoons will try to push this out of the way. And I'm not, taking the chance for them to escape again. So I'll put that in there.
If you got a skunk the whole time you spray in,
Nope, if you have a skunk, you don't even have to do this part because they're not going to push that trap out of the way. I cover them, do the same thing, spray them on this side, they go in there at the end.
What are you spraying them with, water?
Nope, vinegar,
Okay.
apple cider vinegar, because I can use, the less I have to carry in my truck, the better. And apple cider vinegar, they don't like, and plus I can spray stuff down to get rid of the smell. Anyway, I'll stake that down so they can't try to push this out of the way while they're going in there. And once they go in there, make sure the corner of this doesn't get caught on these squares. And you can do like this. Put it in there. And you got them. And I always put this bar over top of this.
Okay, I think you just might have confused somebody who wasn't paying. The animal's still in the back of the trap.
Oh, I know. You pulled that first. Sorry. You want me to start over?
Please
Yeah.
do. Go on.
So how does he get through there?
Yeah, but no matter how big the raccoon is or the groundhog, they'll fit in here. And their tail's going to be sticking out a little bit. It's fine. But yeah, that way they can't push this out and bend it. But I always, no matter what animal I catch, I always put this over top of there just to protect, so they don't escape into my truck. That way it's lightweight and you keep your trap where you're at. You don't have to haul it everywhere.
Let me tell you, there's something else that Sam isn't explaining to you. I don't know if you know it or not. Put that stake back in there. Is these traps are a fairly weak trap. If you have a big animal like in that trap, a raccoon will take that door and they'll push on, a woodchuck will do it too. They'll push on that door hard enough where it will bend right there and it'll bend up. Doesn't matter whether this is here or not, this whole door will bend up. This bar being in here prevents that door from lifting up at all, so it kind of gives her that little extra.
It's behind that too, so they can't wiggle it to where that comes up either.
Right.
Yeah. Like I said, like a sardine can, they had the one corner pulled in. They grabbed it and just.
And see, with that bar in there, they can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's a good.
But if you have bad backs and you don't want to keep on transferring your traps every single time you catch a raccoon during 2 months worth of trapping on someone's farm, this is the best bet. Take it and shoot it where it's appropriate, or take care of it where it's appropriate.
Okay, shooting's okay.
Oh, I know, but during trapping season, you shoot it. During nuisance trapping, you have to haul it to go take care of it, because you're not going to do that at a client's house. I'm going to tell you that right now.
have you taken me like state parks too and stuff like that? Take off and turn loose?
That's half my calls. Why can't we let it go somewhere? It's the law, sorry.
There's other things other than just against the law.
Oh, well,
But for against the law, we'll stick with that one for today.
Works for me.
Okay, you like eating? Okay, well, it's going to cause crop damages to farmers, and now it's cage shy and can't be caught. What else?
Yeah.
Moving your nuisance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want, roundworm from in town and distemper and leptospirosis to be spread out in the country? Cool. So, but yeah, like these. But anyway, I like these. I forgot where I got these. I think Wildlife Control. And this one I like because it has smaller areas. I can use it for the smaller guys too. I use both. This one's thicker, a little bit thinner, but I got this one on Amazon. I like both of them.
They're not for sale.
No.
Sorry,
no.
Todd.
No. And for skunks, I don't know if you're at the demo, but for skunks, you want these. I used to carry plywood that I made from scratch with these. They're a little bit heavier, but now I just use it to cover the cages to do posse set. These are lightweight. Flip up the door, spray them, move it if I need to move it. One goes in the small trap, one goes in the big trap.
So you walk up and put those on after the skunk's already in the trap?
Hmm?
So you walk up and put those on after the skunk is already in the trap? Okay, you don't put them on there before this?
No, but especially if I'm catching something that we have multiple animals in the same place.
Okay.
It, just depends. If they're cage shy, then I'll put the plywood over top of it. Because I want to use these that way in case I get another call. I mean, I want to get multiple of these actually. I will have multiple. But I like these always carry in my truck for when I get a nuisance call and I have all these other traps. I don't want to have to go collect these up at another trap, just to pick up an animal. It'll take me literally 2 minutes to transfer.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, obviously if a skunk is in there, I'm usually at a distance. And I just let him, I say, hey, can you wake up from your nap? Because they're usually napped underneath the door because it's dark. I'm like, hey, what's up? He'll be like, hey, what's up? I'm like, all right, cool, you've seen me. And then I'll go in front of the door and I'll just, slide him on there. Obviously not as, well, ta-da, the end.
So you get the same price if a skunk sprays versus if it doesn't spray?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh.
Well, no, like if you're getting a skunk out of somebody's house and it sprays, I mean, do you have like a no spray guarantee, or do you say, look, it's possible that this thing could spray?
I never guarantee anything. It's just safer that way, liability wise.
One way to do it.
But I haven't yet, knock on wood. Of course, I said that's going to happen. When I was using tarps and things, the wind will catch the tarp or something. And one of the first ones I did, I was using a tarp. I put it over it, and then a corner of it, the wind got, and I was probably 15 feet away. He got me right in the eye. I was only blind for like a half a day. It was alright. But and then when I saw these online, I was like, this is so much easier than plywood or tarp. And fold right easy, and I can put them away. Oh, hello.
Okay, those aren't for sale?
No. No.
They are, but they're online.
They're online.
You gotta buy them someplace else.
If you're targeting just skunks, you don't like tube traps?
The what?
The tube traps? If you're targeting just the skunk?
The way I dispatch, I don't like using them. So I don't use tube traps. I actually sold him a box, an entire closed, big, huge box. I hate how heavy they are. And I have to check to see what's in there. And then of course I can't dispatch it right in there. I don't want to shoot a gun in there. I don't know. It's bulky, inconvenient. Like I said, I can walk up to a skunk and they're not gonna, as long as they know I'm here and I'm slow and go to their blind spot after they've noticed that I've been here, I'm not startling them. So that's really cool.
What are you doing if you have a trap like this that has a mesh end in it?
Yeah, so like that. In that case, crap, hold on.
You just take it, you lay it down, point it away from you, and you just take a screwdriver and push that ball down.
In that case, which rarely I have a client that has actually good traps, okay? But once in a while, I have an open trap. Because sometimes I'll have traps like this, but has the wire in the front instead of it closed. With those, I'll be like, hey, what's up? And I'll just kind of block myself, be really slow. And he'll just I'll just watch his movement to see if he's gonna
transfer him from there.
Yep.
So
Same way.
what turned out
I
to
did
be
all
a
the same way. They all transfer the same. These are a little bit wider, but they fit. They fit on those two. There's a couple other modifications I'm going to show you because I totally forgot about them.
What do you use to ignite your skunk?
What?
Dispatch your skunk.
If somebody would have bought that,
You shoot them?
I used to.
should have bought.
Acetone? Why don't you do it on site?
I don't do it on site because I think it's unprofessional, and clients don't need to see it, or neighbors don't need to see it.
One of the problems is when you're doing it on site, everybody wants to watch, so it becomes a show. And if she gets up and gets ready to try to eject the skunk moves,
Right.
and she has to back off,
Which,
then it's a show, and people become anxious because they want to watch the show.
so when I do have a skunk in here,
Yep, and yeah.
when I have a skunk in here, what I do is I have them, I scoot them, I actually use both of them. But I use this. I put them in there, and I scoot them this way, and I scoot them this way. I scoot them all the way until, of course, I take this off too. And I'm doing this with the trap cover helping me. So I'll have him up there, and he'll be in a ball right there.
Yep.
And then I'll lay it on the side like that. Find where the heart is going to be. And it takes me maybe sometimes, usually twice, syringe. So I forgot how many millimeters it is.
About 8.
Yeah, twice. And they just fall asleep, and I still have my glands intact.
do you have the system with you?
I don't. Because I was just supposed to do raccoons.
Yeah, there you go.
But, yeah, I love those. Anyway, so sometimes when you're doing a client's yard, so what happens is when you ask a client, hey, I have traps, and you don't have a choice but to put them on their fancy lawn. You can either use board. I mean, if they say they don't care about their lawn, they don't care. But sometimes you have to modify the traps to make sure they're not going to destroy their turf, and put harbor cloth on there. Every single cage though that I do have, they will have about 3 to 4 inches of hardware cloth always on the back. So that way they're not going in there and stealing any kind of baits, because they can actually reach about 3 to 4 inches from inside the trap, and of course going in there because they're trying to avoid going in the hole. That's why you always set them at least 4 inches from any buildings you're trapping on. So that way they're not reaching out and grabbing wire and destroying someone's property. If that makes sense.
Sam, so you've got a system then that'll reach in through here
What?
without for your injection. You got a system that'll reach in through this wire to where if he goes on the other side. It's not like a syringe with the tabs on it that won't go in there.
No, yeah, it's a syringe pole, and it's just a regular, it's that big, and the pole can actually fit right into the,
Through the 1x1 wire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's nice.
It has to be on the pole that she has. On the typical syringe, it's got the little ears sticking out.
That's right.
Those ears have to be trimmed down in order to be able to put it through there. But it can still go through there with the that
Tube.
syringe still fits through that 1 inch.
And I like the shorter ones. I ended up getting a 3-foot one, or
You got a 4-foot
4-foot one.
Yep.
I regret it. I'd rather have a shorter one.
Okay.
It's just easier to, instead of doing that, everyone's afraid to go in there. But since I'm not afraid of it, I'm like, why did I even get a 4-foot one if I'm not afraid of the skunks tracking me? But usually when they're up there that close, they're curled up and they're like, I don't even care anymore, just do it. So they're calm, they're not freaking out, they're not trying to spray me. Yes, they can absolutely spray inside of a small squirrel trap. I have pictures to prove it. They lift up that tail. As long as they can lift up the tail or have their feet on the ground, they can still use those muscles behind the glands to squeeze. So there's that. So some traps will have bait doors. I actually don't even use them because I don't feel like thinking around with them, but you can put stuff in there and undo the bait door. Yeah. And you can, maneuver things in there and whatnot, which is kind of handy, even though I never used it. There's a couple other ways too, like some guy had a can on here in the back hung up, so that way they have to go in there and work at that can, reach out their hand and trigger the trap. I use, and some people will hang a little wire, with marshmallows, whatever, and this little guy right here, because they want to go above it, reach for it and trigger the trap. The ones that I like using, please don't break, thank you. I was a beginner mom when I started, so I had a bunch of baby jars. And the reason why I like baby jars is because they're shiny, and raccoons are like me, ADHD.
That's true.
They get yeah, they get very distracted by everything.
You ever tried a golf ball?
No.
Quite a few coon over the years. Just drill a hole through a golf ball and suspend it,
Oh,
so it's hanging in the middle,
okay.
and then just put a little lure on it. And
I wonder if you can't drill it and then put like a little bit of lure inside of it, so that way ants and weather can't wash it away.
You could.
It's the same thing as your basket,
Yeah.
only it's a golf ball instead of the basket. The idea of the basket, you've got it hung to where it's tight. The idea is to hang it to where it just kind of loops over to where it can move around.
Yeah, and the same thing with this. Like they'll
Yeah.
try to go in there and they're going to try to make it wiggle. They smell everything in here. I have little pinholes in here for a few reasons. I had bait last an entire summer in here. Never had to replace it. I just threw it in there all summer long. I never had to switch out baits or anything. I had like 3 different baits in here. I had sunflower seeds. I have sweet lure, banana lure, peanut butter, whatever. I threw them all in there. It prevents ants from getting in there and prevents the rain from washing it away. That's why I love these things. And I'm not even sure if they make these anymore. But they can just go in there and destroy it and do whatever, and they still can't get the bait out. So I love this. I just go whoop, the end. So I do that, and of course on top of that, I have cat food where there's no cats. Won't use it if there's cats around. If you want to pass this around, this is actually my favorite lure for pretty much everything, including rodents.
You're gonna bring it to me first?
Here, smell it.
Okay.
It smells like banana bread. Okay. So you can pass that around. It's my favorite.
That's the problem with baits for a raccoon. It gets eaten before it ever makes it to the trap.
Real strong. Like when you use those little orange slices for DPs.
Yeah.
Break it in half, throw it in there, eat the other half.
It's organized.
Exactly.
And it gets to be, gosh, that's an awful lot of
Sam,
orange slices.
Yep.
put in
you ever
this
use
recipe.
Boar's Delight
We'll
during
take
a
3
rut?
quarters, put a quarter in for the raccoon.
Oh, it's definitely look into that.
I had a lure that was for a raccoon, fox, and
That Boar's
things.
Delight in January, February time frame. It's
Is it fishy?
no,
Oh, that's,
It's not fishy.
no.
Is it just like
But I'm
glands?
telling you, the boars go nuts.
Get the banana bread. Wait.
A little bit. I might even have a bottle up there.
Because I really, do in the wintertime anyway, but when
Yeah.
I do, I definitely need something different.
You ever use it during the summer? Okay, that's strictly a late season. I just use it. It's not really just
Also
on
have-
it. Yeah.
You in reality, good coyote land of vodka.
Yeah.
So, Bill, do you recognize this?
Where the sow's got babies.
JR? Yep.
I got that from the first training session with you in 2016. I'm still using it because you don't need very much. I only have that much left.
Wow.
But this is the cherry lure cherry bait.
bait.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, just so you can get the boards right back.
So I got cherry. I got that. Now, when you're in town, if you see neighbors using bird seeds and have bird houses or bird feeders out, always sprinkle this in your cages because that's where they're getting most of their food. They have free shelter, free water, free food. So always look to what the neighbors are using. Do they have outside cats over here? They're feeding the birds over here. You know, why are they attracted to a certain area and use those baits around that area? Except of course the cat food.
What's the white one?
Oh, so this one?
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
so marshmallows.
Sorry.
Everybody
Okay.
uses marshmallows. That's just a given.
Gotcha.
But in the summertime, what happens to the marshmallows in your truck?
Oh, they melt.
Oh, they melt. Yeah. So I use flour. Put it in there, shake it, and they stay apart all summer long. And I also use those marshmallows to dig in the baits and throw it in the back. And then
Could you use powdered sugar?
you could, but you're going to get sticky.
What about cornstarch?
Cornstarch, yeah. Anything that is going to be an anti-caking agent. I just use flour because it's still white. It's not going to get sticky on my hands. It's cheap.
It
So,
gets wet.
huh?
It gets wet, you can make dough out of it.
Crazy.
So that's just, it's just a hack.
Marshmallows and gravy.
And marshmallow gravy, there you go.
Any questions so far before I get
That's
to
got
posi setting?
potential there.
A bit of ground up coon meat,
What's that?
Any questions?
coon sausage
What's the two traps sitting over there?
for sale.
No. So with the posi setting, which I was going to get to next, sometimes you have a mom and young in there, and of course you want to set a camera out to see how young if the young is actually coming out with their mothers yet. Obviously, you do not want to trap young that are going to be stuck inside of a hole, and you trap mom and take them away. You want to make sure those young are moving with mom before you start trapping. Okay, ethical reasons right there. You don't want anything in there to suffer and die, you know. So I always tell clients, if you see the young, call me back. Okay. So I like to use, I have used before I got these, actually this is not even mine. Actually I haven't had success with this one yet, but I used a squirrel, those flat squirrelinators before. And sometimes you have like a big white spot underneath a shed. I put that squirrelinator right there and I stick it down, and they can go in there but can't get back out. And I'll have like 4 of them in there. The problem is with that, trying to cover that sucker up with 5 baby skunks in there. That sucks. So, yeah. So you have to basically go slowly and cover the trap. So I've been trying to look into other traps. This is a Comstock. I have not personally had any success with this because depending on how young those skunks are, if you want to, you know, the resistance is too much for even me to like it, because they don't like resistance when they go through something. So you can pass it around and see how I don't know what else to use this for.
Is that for sale?
For sale.
Not yet. I'm still gonna experiment with it. I might be able to fit a raccoon in there. I don't know.
That's a panel trap for when you have animals that are a little bit leery about stepping on a pan.
Right. So this one, Nathan Camps let me borrow.
Yeah.
This is a Cottom's Gotham's trap. Thank you. It was on the tag, but I couldn't really pronounce it right. But I like this one, and I kind of think I want to invest in one of these because it's not resistant.
Yeah.
And if they get in there, this right here actually helps stabilize the front of this so they can't grab
the
it.
door from opening, yeah.
They can't grab it to lift it up to get out of the trap.
It's multi-catch.
So I like this, but I'd rather it have to be a double door if they have them. Posi set only. Okay, got it. But I do like
that's all
that.
that's for. It's posi set.
So if you want to look at that,
Everything else.
They got an idea for you on that one.
What do we got here?
Good question.
Looks to me like a trip here.
Yeah,
I
that's
get
it.
to set this right
Oh,
here.
don't you know how to set that?
No one's ever told me that. They just said it was a colony trap.
No, that's not a
Gravity door.
colony trap.
Oh, look at you.
Sets like that. Animal goes through. He pushes on the.
There we go. Yeah.
You can see the doors. Yeah.
You learn something new today, Doug.
Shouldn't have showed her.
I like this trap. I like this trap though. It's not for
thing
sale.
don't work.
It's not for sale. It's mine. Anyway, it was supposed to be a gravity door colony trap when I bought it and stuff. That was the description. No one put directions in there for this. They only put directions in there for that. So thank you. Anyway, I like both now. Those are not for sale. Okay, so any more questions? All right, does anybody want to learn how to posi set? Does anybody know what posi set means? Positive set.
you probably want to explain to everybody what it is because you're talking about it.
So when you're nuisance trapping, you want to get the job done as quickly as possible, and you want to get that animal or animals that are underneath a location, like a hole in someone's foundation, underneath a shed, things like that. And you want to make sure the whole area is closed off, and you're only working with the most active holes. So what you do is you take one of the traps, and you can either, put the trap one way and cover it where the hole is, make sure it's secure, so that way they have no choice but to go inside the trap. Okay? So there's different situations and different tools that you can use to make sure that can happen. They're just looking for the most non-resistance, and they just force themselves in the trap. So, over here I have a couple spots. You want to get closer? Yeah, sorry about all this stuff in the way. So if you're like in the forest, where have I set that at? So pretend there's like a groundhog hole right here, and you're just fur trapping. You can still use the same technique for fur trapping. You can open up both doors, because groundhogs will be hibernating during fur trapping season, but you still have raccoons and skunks and possums that will investigate that hole and just try to see if there's anybody in there, and investigating it and using it as a hideout. So either way, whether it's summertime or anything like that, of course you stake down the trap, and actually I've been putting, if I use Comstocks, I actually take this T-trap stake, and you see where the trigger wire is in the middle?
I did mine before I came out.
I actually put this right here so they can't just squeeze by and not have a full trigger effect on these wires. And I'll just stake it down right there.
That's good.
Actually, it's not. Don't beat the trap.
Yeah, it's kind of rough.
I know. Okay. So this is a long story. This is a Comstock nose cone, and it was all one piece of metal. And I got frustrated one day because I had a hole down and then a ledge that I couldn't put the trap off of. So I had to turn the trap sideways with a hole in the ground, and you have a shed right there. So I needed something that was, that I could lift up like this and just have these secure like that. So I gave up and I just cut it into pieces. I cut the one side off, and then of course when I was done using it, I actually went to work, cut the rest of this off, zip tied all these so I can hide it in my truck. I didn't like how bulky it is, trying to get it out of the truck. So I modified it. I also put holes down here for a reason, to stick these down when I'm doing posi setting on the ground. And that way also when this goes over it.
Well, you do government jobs at work, huh?
Right time.
So like that, I'll zip tie these right there. Zip tie them so that way they can't push it out. And the holes on the ground, I can flip it over, zip tie the corners, take
I wish I had brought me a bucket. Get some walnuts. That trap down.
I use these, they're cheap. That's why I like them. And I'll put them through the hole. And put them all right around so that way the hair's resistance, they have no choice but to go right into the trap.
Using any bait on a positive set then, or just any bait in the trap, or just leaving them?
Yes, and the reason why I do that is I just now started doing that just to get their attention away from the trap. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, there's a trap right there. You know, that's the only place to go, but I'm going to stay down here for a week before going in that trap. And that's really frustrating. So I do a little bit down the hole and inside there just to be like, what is that? Oh crap, too late. You know, so. So when you're pausing setting and you have it just one side, you know, in there, and you just want to do the one side, and you don't want to do double door or catch multiple animals, just whatever's underneath there, and then you do an exclusion. I don't do exclusion, so I just catch whatever that's interested in that location where they want to live, because they're living at the neighbor's house over here. 2 weeks later, I'll get another call. Hey, they're underneath my barn again. Something's different this time. I'm like, come on. So I'll catch whatever, and I just do one set fee for 3 days to a week, 3 days minimum, so you know the activity level, and you can switch things up if you need to. So that's what I do. I'm not doing per animal fee because I want to be like, oh, I don't want to pay for that one. I just wanted the groundhog. That's not happening with me. Okay, I'm not wasting time. Yeah. Yeah. I'm done. So now I gotta take this out. Oh my god.
I think somebody told you not to hammer it in.
Huh? I know. Well, I can't set that flat on there without it. So here, you know, there's other ways. So yeah, you got hills to deal with. You know, you got groundhog holes to deal with. I made one there. You know, sometimes they're not gonna be flat on the ground. You can take rocks, you can take whatever, and you can cover it, stake it down. Make sure nothing, like the lip of the door, is not touching the screen, or it's not gonna go down. So you always gotta make sure, even on the side, that nothing is gonna be cut underneath that door. Of course, I didn't have enough screen, but you put screen down, stake it. You can use boards. You can pile up, you know, anything that you have around there. Pile it up. You know, cover this up if you want to. You can do a blind set, so that way they feel comfortable coming out and see a little bit light up at the end of the tunnel. So there's different ways you can do positive setting at the different angles, using what you have around you. So, and then that's another thing I want to bring up is using a camera. I'm going to bring this over here. You can actually use a camera if you have a spot that you're kind of interested in, but you can't catch the critter. Use a solar power camera. You know, set them. I mean, maybe you have several traps in one area. You're looking at the activity of the raccoons, what's happening. It's good to see what their activity level is like. If they're being cage shy because it's open, move it somewhere else and cover it. And then you'll see them go in there because they saw someone get caught over here. And they're like, nah, I'm not gonna go in that trap because I know someone was in there. So when you hide it somewhere else and cover it, they're like, oh, this is not the same area. This is not the same, you know, equipment. And they just go in there and they get caught that way. And you can only figure that out when you do watch them with a camera.
Do they ever get camera shy?
Actually, funny note, they come up to the camera and go, oh, what's this? And they knock it over. So I actually had to start staking them down right here. So they don't knock them down anymore. I'm like, you son of a gun.
Do you find much resistance after you catch one, a woodchuck or whatever in there, where another one doesn't want to?
So
Muskrats woodchucks are rank. I mean, they're that musky odor.
the mothers with older young, they're still with them because they can be up with them for up to like 18 months. They're gonna be a little bit more. I've noticed when I was catching 10 raccoons within 4 days in one spot, I noticed that she didn't want to go where those other raccoons were that were getting caught. She kept on going up there and going, no, stay back. So what I had to do was put 2 traps along the home, and I used plywood, covered all the traps. So I used my old skunk traps, or my old skunk covers, which was plywood, and it covers the cages. I put cages butt to butt, so big, huge, long pin traps, butt to butt. And I knew, and I put bait in both of them, had them covered. I knew the young one was going to be dumb enough to go in one of them. The mother will not take that crap. She wants that baby out of there, so she went in the other one. So the baby was the bait. She was first, and she wanted the baby. So she got in there. For 4 days straight, she was looking at the other traps and was like, I don't trust it. That's when you start hiding them and moving them around, so that way you catch that.
Because I didn't know that could work either way. It could be a deterrent or an attraction. having those odors in there, depending on what was.
Yep, and that's why I had the camera, because I knew that that something was up, and the camera told me that I needed to change things up. To work with the animal, you got to think like the animal. Because I noticed that she had one young in one of them, and she's like, "No, you can't go in there. We're never going to go near these traps. I don't care if there's food in there. You're staying back." And that's when I changed it up and did the covering it up and doing the butt end for that. And so that is positive set. Do you have any questions for positive sets? Do you guys ever use cage traps to do off-trail sets for trails for during first season? So when you're using traps, this would be an animal trail. Every trail, usually I'll take these flags and I'll go around the whole property and I'll set a flag for every single trail so I don't forget where they're at. And I can count them and start trapping. But you see that there's a path right here. And what I do is I'll hide that trap by a tree in the shrub somewhere and let it naturally just hide itself. Stake it down really good. And of course do your marshmallows and cat food or whatever. And then your baits. And they'll be like, "Oh, what's that?" Don't even know there's something there, and they'll just go right in there. And you can do it over and over and over and over again.
Animals talk to you, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But the reason,
Your little comments like that. "Oh, what's that?"
and I never block the trap I never block the path with the trap because you got deer and everything else running through there. And you don't want it blocked anyway because you want them to start running those trails and leaving scent and getting into the hidden traps. So, anything else?
Trails, why don't you just use DPs on?
Good question. So I have trapped someone's property. They're like, "Oh, in the wintertime, just come over to my house." Well, it's one of those richy neighborhoods. They live by a cornfield. And you don't want other people's dogs, cats, whatever, getting in that catch circle. You didn't want them destroying the place. You don't want the neighbors to see what you caught or how they're trapped there, because you're going to have people with PETA and all that crap all the way around there. So you always use cage traps for those areas.
Okay.
Yeah. And they'll have animal trails like that too, surrounding their property, obviously. So every situation for nuisance trapping or for trapping or a combination of both, every situation is different. My other rule is animals don't have rules. They don't have rules. I always tell people there are no rules to wildlife. Something will always be different and their behavior will always change. So never always assume they're going to do one behavior one day and be like that for for all of the other wildlife.
Fried turkey, you want to see that firsthand.
Yeah. But everyone's like, "Oh, they're supposed to like this. Oh, they're supposed to behave like that." That is not true. No, they're all different. So it's like doing your own detective work, trying to figure out their behavior, trying to figure out where they're coming from, trying to figure out what's going on around the neighborhood that's causing this issue. And the only way you're going to learn is to get out there and see for yourself. So, any other questions? I think that's it so far. I think. If anybody wants to posi trap or want to try to posi trap, I have a spot over there with a groundhog pole you can practice on. Do you want to try?
Yes.
Jump all over Eli if you're interested.
For a posi set.
No, thank you.
Okay.
That's how we learn.
No, she said no thanks.
So you can pick whatever trap you want. If you want to go look at the hole, does anybody want to mark?
We'll follow you over.
You're right there. Hello. Come follow me.
This is his first convention around this kind of stuff. So
Oh, cool.
We're wanting him to get this firsthand.
So spot the flag. Where's that for the flag?
Yep.
This is why I do that, because
30
I
yards out.
forget and then lose track of where I'm at.
Yep.
So this was a really tricky one. So there's a groundhog pole right there. And pretend that's at the end of someone's property inside the city limits. You can't put a foothold there
Right.
or anything, you don't know what's in it. So that's when you use cages. So,
Thoughts there, Eli?
yep. What kind of positive stuff would you like to try to use? Will a big cage fit there or a smaller cage? Should you,
Do you think a groundhog could fit in that little black one you used? You think that one would be good there?
See, two scenarios here.
That's what I see. You take a look and see what you think.
now understand that traps have to be flat. Also, you know, the hills, the depth.
If this trail wanting to come this way, you can pretty well see where this thing is going to come out of a hole and come to if he's coming out here.
I know where I would set it.
See, I got two scenarios with it. Let's see what you got. What you thinking?
It does kind of look like there is a trail going in that book and there, but
I mean, sometimes because of the blockages, you can't use that trail.
Right.
So if you posi set it, what's the next best scenario? So that way, if you're closer to the hole, you can cover it a lot easier.
possibly on the side of that hole there, block that off. Put it on the side for that flat.
The flatter side?
Yeah.
I'm talking right here?
Yeah.
Perfect, yep. Now, did you want to practice and get some equipment?
Why not?
Okay.
Say the other thought I had was if you wasn't going to posi set it like that and you're going to trail set it, pinch that down right here, put your blocking in here. You just leave him that room, block that all off, have your trap setting right
Yep,
there.
where that hole is.
Force him through that
Yep.
area right there.
Yep. And you can do, like I said, you can do the same thing. You set it there and you put like some logs this way.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, yes, he has a chance to go over those logs.
Sure.
But you can also cover it with leaves and sticks and cross it over like that without using any hardware cloth.
Right.
So yes, there's two
Yep.
different ways. You can do it as many different ways
Oh,
as you
yeah,
want.
sure.
You can change it up if you see that they're not being active.
Just like you said, every one of these is going to have a different scenario
Yep,
to it.
every one. And I try to explain every scenario, but I'm going to get the hardware cloth for you.
Is that the one you were wanting?
Yeah.
That one or the big one? Now, if there's any, now wobble it a little bit. See if there's any sticks or rocks that are making it flimsy. And you can take the hammer here and flatten it out better.
Now you would T-stake that also
After
once you get it put down.
use this to clean it out, then you have it like underneath there and scrape it all out. This is something a little heavier right here because I've had to use that one. It's odd.
That's pretty steady right there now.
Now, make sure nothing's in the way of the door. Now, if you see right there where the ledge is overhanging and there's no dirt there, sometimes raccoons and especially groundhogs, they're going to want the dirt up there. They don't want to step up into a trap.
Level trap bed.
Yeah, so you might want to pull it back, maybe scrape some dirt and put it against the bottom to hide some of the wires.
So like just kind of take some, push this back and take some dirt and just kind of.
Yep.
Get it so it's pretty much set right flat.
Especially covering the front edge of the trap and hiding those wires so they don't feel it on their feet. It helps them be more comfortable to come inside the trap.
So just like this or.
That'll work as long as there's no rocks or sticks. If the rocks or sticks are there, then I would. So then when you do set it and have all the dirt here and everything else, make sure you practice setting it off. That will close. So if there's anything there and the wind takes it and overflows that, then it's going to get stuck right here and they're going to lose themselves in that. Does that make sense? That's why it's recommend like doing dirt in front. You
there,
can work around
it's like, okay, how are we gonna get him out?
different
That's usually
scenarios if you
time
want
you
to.
use barbed wire or something, run it back in there, try to get him wound up and pull him through.
First and foremost, where do you think you should set it? Yep, you could definitely do that. And of course, if you have a loose wire here, you definitely don't want it against it. It's going to cause resistance for that trap to fire off. Make sure you wiggle it, see where it's wiggly. I mean, sometimes you have to go on one side versus the other side because it's like kind of an angle. And after you take it down, hammer's behind, so you can take it down. Usually I have it about right here, and I have it at an angle. It doesn't matter, but as long as you have it stabilized. I just like that T on top of there because it's, you know, stabilizing a little further in. Yep, we're good. And you gotta reset again. Now that you know that it closes really well. And sometimes I'll hold the trap door open while I'm taking it down.
I really like that pin trap.
Push down the pin. Push it wherever it needs to go.
I like that trap. It works really
Yep,
well.
you're good.
I say I like to use it.
Now this is the tricky part. Martha, you want to help him figure out how to?
Oh, we're gonna have to block that. Okay.
Yep.
Let me see here.
Now you can take apart anything you want to. I don't have my pocket knife on me. Or my tin snips on me. Yeah, it's starting to break apart.
Yeah.
Yep, we're just going to try to fence them off the best we can. Force them.
They're still making do that with a lot more person.
But at least they're covering it. They don't have to
Probably
block it down there.
tall enough to make one piece we're going to block him over, or even fence in this direction. Yeah, grab it over flat piece.
Cut mine.
Bring that off of this corner. Pretty much.
What's your common size you like to use? 12 by 12?
Say we'd have to wire it all together.
They're 99. 12 by 12 by 36 or 85.
Yep, and those guys right there.
12 by 12 by 15 is
$70?
That's only going to give him one way in.
I'm going down.
Say once you take some wire ties or whatever and tie these together, tie them around the tree, tie them around the corner of your trap, it's going to force him.
The guy bought them for one of the reasons. He's like, I will take all of them.
I sent you a message.
Get Sam over here and see what her thoughts are on it.
What? Oh.
See what your thoughts are, Sam. We figured by the time we wire all these together, come off the corner of the trap, come around the tree here and bend that around too so he can't get through here. Force him to a one-way, there's only one way to go.
Maybe. So, let's see here. That would work. as
Or
long
would
as
you pinch off the top of the hole here and just give him a little bit of an area to come through?
I would actually, what I would do is, give me a second. You want to do as less as possible.
The other thought was
So let me see that big guy
to
right
close
there.
this stuff off to where you only have one way, just a small area for him to come in and come out.
So if you wanted to, squeeze that in here. Right there.
Yep.
Oh, crap. Zip tie this down there.
Right.
Zip tie on the side of this cage right here. And then do that. Yes, that would
Yep,
work.
and then fence.
Yep.
Finish fencing him off.
That way it's
just
less
like
work,
this.
less work, and if you wanted to too, take the big limbs like this that are round, cover as much as possible.
Right.
And that way you only have to use this.
Yep.
You just cover all that up with, you know, these. I mean, you want to use what you have around
Sure.
to make your work your last
Yeah, you're just
part.
fencing him off to give him just
Yep.
a small area to
So
go.
cover that up with all. I mean, you're going to have
Oh yeah, you'd have
wood all over the
this
place.
stuff you've got set here.
Yeah. Yep. So wood I would use to go across it.
Yep.
Until you get to here, and then use a piece of wood to cover this area to hold it down if you want to. Pin this down with sticks. I like zip ties. do whatever. But as long as they have room right here
Right.
to get in there,
That's the new duck.
you're good to go. Because you want them, you want it to be as covered as you want it to be, so that way they have no, they don't.
So you can darken that up enough to where the only light is right there, and he's going to see where he's going to have to go.
Yep, and he's not going to be tripped out or weirded out by this mechanic and move that stuff around and you know. So you guys did awesome. Did you learn anything?
Yeah.
But there's different ways to do.
Right.
Okay, and then you have to switch it up sometimes.
Sure.
You know, and sometimes you'll be like, oh look, it moved the stick and went out this direction. Great. Now you got to find something heavier, and then is when you start using that and just pounding that in there so they can't move it. So, you know, you want as much resistance as you can. That way they pick the easy route through the cage.
Well, I appreciate you for showing me how to do this.
No problem. And if you want to, feel free. I'm gonna put all the traps back over there. And if you want to mess around with all the traps and experiment with them, go for it.